The arena floor was stained with 100 years of blood, but none of it belonged to Drav. The Warwolf stood 12 feet tall when he straightened his spine, his body a monument to violence sculpted by genetic engineering and endless combat. Gray fur rippled over muscles that could crush starship hull plating. His eyes, one gold, one milky white from an old wound, had watched countless warriors approach him with weapons drawn and pride blazing. They all fell the same way, quickly and without ceremony. The Calathian Empire prided itself on its warriors. Across 1,000 conquered worlds, they had taken the fiercest fighters, the most decorated soldiers, the champions of dying civilizations, and offered them a choice: serve or be destroyed. Most served, and those who served were tested against Drav. None had ever passed. The arena masters kept him in a cage of reinforced durasteel between fights, a cage he could have torn through if he wished. But Drav had stopped wishing for anything long ago. He fought when commanded. He killed when necessary. He existed in the space between battles like a weapon waiting to be drawn. Then came the day the Calathians conquered Earth. The humans had fought with a desperation that impressed even the Empire's most jaded generals. They had none of the Calathians' natural armor, none of the Vrexian combat instincts, none of the Tholian telepathic coordination. What they had was stubbornness, creativity, and an unwillingness to accept the inevitable until it had already happened twice. It wasn't enough. Earth fell. The Calathians took their tribute of warriors and brought them to the arena worlds. 27 human fighters stood in the preparation chambers, each one a veteran of the hopeless war. They would face Drav as all warriors did, and they would fall as all warriors did. But among the tribute there was an error. Lena wasn't a warrior. She had been a field medic with the 3rd Resistance Corps, treating injuries in makeshift hospitals while the world burned above her. Small and soft-spoken, she had survived through compassion, not combat. The Calathian collection teams, unable to distinguish between human military roles, had taken her along with the fighters. By the time the error was discovered, the tribute had already been processed. The arena masters shrugged. If she died, she died. The Empire had no shortage of humans. Lena watched 19 of her fellow humans enter the arena over the course of 3 days. 19 times Drav emerged from his gate. 19 times the fight lasted less than a minute. The Warwolf didn't toy with his opponents. He simply ended them, not always lethally, but always definitively. On the 4th day, they called her name. She walked into the arena in clothes meant for someone twice her size. No weapon in her hands, no anger in her eyes. The crowd's roar faded to confused murmuring. Across the blood-stained sand, Drav emerged from his gate and stopped. In all his years of combat, no opponent had ever approached him without a weapon ready. Lena walked forward with steady steps, her eyes fixed not on Drav's teeth or claws, but on something else. As she drew closer, she could see it clearly. The poorly healed wound across his ribs, the infection spreading beneath the matted fur, the slight hitch in his breathing that spoke of damaged tissue pressing against his lungs. "You're hurt," she said quietly in the broken Calathian she'd been learning from the other prisoners. Drav's growl rumbled through the arena like distant thunder. Warriors didn't speak to him. They fought him. That was the arrangement. But Lena didn't reach for a weapon. She reached into the oversized pocket of her uniform and pulled out the small medical kit she'd managed to hide from the guards. Habits from her old life that hadn't yet died. "Let me help," she said. The arena fell silent. Even the Calathian nobles in their viewing boxes leaned forward, uncertain what they were witnessing. Drav could have killed her in a heartbeat. His claws could open her throat before she drew her next breath. But something in her approach, the lack of fear, the presence of something he hadn't seen in any warrior's eyes, made him pause. Slowly, impossibly, Lena closed the distance between them. She was so small standing before him. Her head barely reached his chest, but her hands, when she raised them, didn't shake. She touched the infected wound with gentle fingers, her brow furrowing in the way medics do when they're calculating treatment plans. "This needs to be cleaned and sealed," she said, more to herself than to him. "The infection has spread. You've been fighting with this for days, haven't you?" Drav stood frozen, his entire understanding of the arena momentarily suspended. In 100 years of combat, no one had ever asked him about his pain. Lena opened her medical kit and began working. She cleaned the wound with antiseptic that must have stung, but Drav didn't flinch. She applied synthetic tissue adhesive to the torn flesh. her movements practiced and efficient. She wrapped it with the last of her bandaging, tying it off with a knot that wouldn't slip. "There," she said, stepping back. "It should heal properly now. Try not to strain it for a few days if you can." The arena remained silent. The Calathian officials exchanged uncertain glances. This wasn't how the trials worked. This wasn't how anything worked. But Drav felt the tightness in his chest ease for the first time in weeks, felt the steady hands of someone who had touched him not to hurt but to heal. He looked down at this small, quiet human who had done what no warrior could do. She had climbed past his defenses without swinging a single blow. When the arena master's voice crackled over the speakers demanding combat, Drav didn't move toward Lena. Instead, he turned toward the viewing boxes where the Calathian nobles sat, and for the first time in 100 years the Warwolf refused to fight. The Empire tried to force compliance. They sent shock troops into the arena. Drav destroyed them. They threatened Lena's life. Drav positioned himself between her and every weapon. They tried starvation, isolation, psychological manipulation. Nothing worked. The quiet human girl had done what no warrior could. She had reminded a weapon that it had once been something else. And in doing so, she had sparked something the Calathian Empire hadn't anticipated. Rebellion. Within a month, every arena world erupted in revolt, led by a 12-foot warwolf and the small medic who rode on his shoulders. Within a year, the Empire's slave soldier program collapsed entirely. Within 5 years, Earth regained its independence. Historians would later debate the turning point of the war. But those who had been there knew the truth. Empires are built on violence, but they fall when someone remembers that compassion is stronger than any weapon forged. And it only takes one person reaching out to start the fall.